Hello and welcome to Nowhere. My name is Trish and I am the creator behind Nowhere Novelties. A technique that I've been wanting to try is applying alcohol inks directly to raw glitter. The end result actually looks really cool. It kind of looks like a geode, like fault line. So today I created this really gorgeous dark fault line opal geode tumbler. If you're ready, let's strap in and shoot for the stars. I have a 32-ounce tapered tumbler from Maker Flow Crafts, base painted white, and I am going in with a bunch of glitters. I have Frosty from Glitter Heart Company, Fireflies from Peachy Olive Glitters. Also have Belle, Quinn, and Vortex. These are all of like my chunky glitters. Belle is from Advancing Aiden. Quinn is from Peachy Olive, and Vortex is from the Glitter Grind. So I am going to be applying all of these glitters with the epoxy method. So that is what I am doing right here. I did heat up my tumbler just a little bit just so the epoxy would spread pretty easy. And I'm using like a very limited amount, getting a nice even but very, very thin coat of epoxy. And then what I like to do is like stretch out my glove and just tap my palm all over the cup. And this helps prevent like any streaking or lines. And then I just like set it off to the side and kind of let everything self-level. So I'm starting with my chunky glitters. I am creating a swirl starting with Belle. I knew Belle had the most like reflection. So it shifted like the most color. So I wanted that to be like the focal of the swirl in terms of like the chunkier glitters. And I'm just like pinch applying as opposed to like shaking this down onto the cup. It's a little bit easier to control. And plus with the chunky glitters, I don't like dumping them directly onto the cup because I tend to have it has a tendency to like build up and then you get like the super pokey bits and you're going to require a lot more of epoxy to get everything to lay smooth. Now I'm going in with Quinn and I am essentially lining each side of the stripe of the Belle glitter with a little bit of the Quinn. The Quinn doesn't shift as much as the Belle, so that's why I just wanted like a little bit of variation in the amount of these opal glitters. And then Vortex again is going on the outermost sides of Quinn. Now Vortex is like gold and purple. It doesn't have as much like blue shift. So that's why I kind of wanted it to line the very edge. And then I'm going in with Firefly. This is going to be the fine glitter to apply the alcohol inks to. You don't necessarily have to apply the alcohol inks to a fine glitter. Most of the tutorials or videos that I've seen people do this method on does have they're applying it to fine glitter, but really you can do it on any type of glitter. And just to finish everything off and like fill in the gaps of the chunkier swirl, I did go in with that Frosty and just kind of go all throughout to help blend everything in and make sure all of our cracks are filled. At this point, you do not want to seal with spray paint or anything, no epoxy. So this is the raw glitter. I'm going to be applying multiple shades of like blues and purples. These are all of the inks that I'm using. You're going to see me bring over a gunmetal metallic that I do not end up using. I didn't want to risk it. But then I also brought out black, which I knew I was going to like kind of outline. So essentially what I'm going to do is just very gently drop the alcohol inks onto that raw glitter. The alcohol ink will spread, so be careful. And try not to make a mess because you will see very shortly that I do end up getting some of the alcohol ink actually onto the chunkier side of the tumbler, but that's okay. I actually end up showing you how to fix that as well. So really there's no rhyme or reason. I was thinking a geode, so I know it has like kind of layers and like the rings of a tree, if you think of it that way. So that's kind of like the shape that I was creating. But in the long run, I actually just ended like going hog wild for it and just filling in the spaces. So I just went from lightest to darkest, and just continued to like build that coverage over the section of the raw alcohol ink. See, right there, that's where I did it. I dropped a little piece of, or a little drop of the blue ink onto the chunky glitter. I was devastated. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna have to fix that. But I knew it was fixable, so it's no big deal. And it's a learning moment. It's nice to be able to show you guys I am not perfect. I do not create perfect cups. So I will show you guys how to fix it. Now I'm going in with the purple. Again, just adding like dimension to this whole stripe. And essentially, I'll start to line the very edge of the whole like fault line portion of this cup with the black. I did not add black anywhere else throughout like the stripe. It is literally only the like line, the outer line, to separate the fine glitter from the chunky glitter. Now to fix my mistakes. So I had the one drop that I showed you on the chunkier glitter, and I also had a lot of that black kind of seep along the rim of the cup. So I have white resin dye and UV resin. When I tell you this white resin dye goes a long way, you need the smallest drop. Like, wait until I show you how little of a drop. I probably used, or I probably mixed up maybe like either 2.5 or maybe 5 milliliters of epoxy. Look at how small that dot is. The teeniest of drops. And this will come out very, very white. I like this resin dye as opposed to white alcohol ink. So anyway, to get the most coverage, which is why I'm using the white alcohol ink, I'm basically using the UV resin, and I am going to go right over where the alcohol ink dripped. So I didn't want any of that alcohol ink to like seep up through any like acrylic paint or epoxy. So this is why I did it with the UV resin, because I wanted to make sure I had like a barrier layer that I could control. So I did the UV resin and then cured that layer. And then I'm just going to go back in with one of my chunky glitters. I'm using, I believe, Quinn. And just doing a layer of UV resin, sprinkling a little bit of that chunky glitter onto it to recreate the base glitter underneath it. And then hit those 2 spots with the UV light. And then you're ready for epoxy. I did not seal the glitter or the alcohol ink. I did leave the alcohol ink for probably like 24 hours, maybe even 48 hours, but I made sure the alcohol ink was like very, very dry before I epoxied. For the next step, we're going to create almost like a Milky Way effect along like the outer like fault line section. I do have a layer of epoxy already on this and cured, but the cup is definitely not smooth. So I have 3 little medicine cups. I have one for white, with which I'm using the resin dye. I have one for like glitter. I'm using a chunky glitter mix and a little bit of like a silver mica powder, and a little bit for the gunmetal color, so that I have like a white, a gray, and like the chunky glitter. Kind of got that inspiration from the amazing Jessica Flynn from her fault line tutorial. So adding the chunky glitter in. So anyway, I am applying a coat of epoxy basically to this cup, basically my next layer of epoxy. And once that kind of self-levels, I'll then go in with a popsicle stick and start to line each of the individual colors along the edge of the alcohol ink section. So this is the gunmetal color that I'm mixing. That's just alcohol ink. Next up is the white resin dye. And then the last little cup is getting that light silver or pearl mica powder with a little bit of the glitter that I chose from Glitter Heart Company. So I'm getting all of these little medicine cups mixed up. They have very, very minimum resin in them, probably no more than like 2.5 milliliters each. So I started off applying the gunmetal color first. I knew that was going to be like the most sheer, so I started with that one and wanted to like build up on top of that. After that mica powder, or excuse me, alcohol ink was applied, I went in with the glitter mixture. I knew I was gonna like continue to manipulate these colors as I applied like the white. So I knew I could like kind of spread out this to get it exactly where I wanted it. And then I went in with the white. The white really added a gorgeous pop to the outer lines to set off the difference between the opal glitter and the fault line. After this layer of epoxy is fully cured, I did go over this layer with 2 other layers to make sure everything was nice and smooth. There was no like lumps or bumps because of the mica powder. So this tutorial is all finished. I hope you enjoyed. See y'all next time. Bye-bye now.